I have a real treat for you today here on the Business Family Marriage Podcast. If you haven't heard of Derral Eves, he is the CEO and executive producer of a little show called The Chosen that maybe you may have heard of. But Derral and I have been friends for, I think, over a decade now. He and his daughter spent the night at my house. He's flown out here to Cincinnati to spend time with our family. I've been out to Utah with his family, and he was instrumental in helping me get video creators started, my business, and making that profitable. And just been a cheerleader and a support and a friend for a long time. We were recently out at an event in San Diego where we were both speaking, and I asked him to sit down and talk with me about what he's experiencing in terms of managing business, managing family, managing his marriage and relationships. This guy is a very busy guy. He'll talk a little bit about it here in a second. He has 8 businesses where he is the majority partner in them, and not to mention leading The Chosen as well, along with Dallas Jenkins. So he is a very busy guy, and we had a really good conversation. I'll come back at the end of this interview to share some of my thoughts. But he does say one thing in here that has stuck with me that I've been thinking about ever since he said it. I felt pretty convicted about this as a husband, as a father, and as a business owner myself. And so it's really good. This can be a good conversation. Now, if you're watching the video version of it, I apologize. We had apparently an unknown technical issue in the middle. The audio is all fine, but after about 15-ish minutes, the audio or the video part becomes blurry. That's what you get for not hiring someone to be a videographer and pay attention to these things while you're doing these interviews. But it is what it is. The value is in the audio, and it's a very good conversation. So without further ado, let's cut to that interview with Derral.
Welcome to the Business Family Marriage Podcast with Tim Schmoyer. This is his personal podcast where he shares what he's learning about growing a 7-figure business while also raising 7 children and deepening his relationship with his wife at the same time. He shares what he's learning, what's worked, what hasn't, what he's trying next to grow a fruitful business, family, and marriage. For more on that today, here's Tim.
Derral, thanks for doing this.
Hey, I'm actually excited to sit down and talk things non-YouTube with you.
Non-YouTube. Yeah, that's like our whole relationship been built on YouTube and views and subscribers and algorithms.
Food. And food, though.
And food.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whether we be doing Subway sandwiches and videos or out to restaurants.
Yeah,
so it's been good. I appreciate you and your support over the years. Not a lot of people know this. You know this, obviously, but back in the very early days of video creators, it's like, Derral, help me. What am I doing? All my background's in theology. I don't know anything practical.
It's about people, Tim. It's about
You're
people.
You're right. It was about people. It is about people.
That's right. That's right.
But just trying to figure out the practical is how do I structure this, and how do I deliver the value that I have, and what does it look like from a service and a program perspective and a product perspective, and how much do I charge and all that. And so
I remember at VidCon that we kind of did the business plan on a napkin. Like we were there for only 3 or 4 hours.
I remember saying we found on an empty hallway. And
that's right.
Yeah,
right.
My butt was numb at the end, but I was like, that was worth it.
Yeah, no, it was good. And it was good to see. First off, I mean, a lot of people have vision, and it's great to see people take action. And I remember going to your first meetup that you had in your hometown.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was really great to see people, and, you're just impacting lives, which I love.
Yeah.
So.
And some of those relationships are still going today, for both of us,
Yeah.
I think, from that
Yeah.
event. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you are a busy guy. You've got a lot of things going on with your business and your family and marriage and everything. So let's start with the business side.
Yeah.
What do you got going on outside of marriage and family? You got a few things.
A lot of craziness, actually.
Yeah, give us an idea of what Derral Eves' economic life is like.
So my wife and I, we own 8 different companies. Now, we might have some other partners that are a part of it, but we actually have majority share of 8 companies. And my life is crazy. She knew that she signed up by marrying an entrepreneur, and I've been very doing entrepreneuring.
Is that a word? She calls it?
No, she's just like, okay, what's the next big thing or whatever. But like most people don't see it, but all the businesses, they coexist. They belong in the same area, but they're outside, just a little bit here, a little bit there. So if like one business is impacted, it doesn't really impact all of them.
Sure. Okay.
And so do that. I think the biggest one that I'm the most excited about is one that we started 5.5 years ago with a partner. He shared an idea about a TV show, and I'm like, I'm all in, man.
I remember when you first told me about this.
I was like, oh.
We were out in Salt Lake and spending the day together, and we were sitting at the
this is the monument park, or this is the place park. Wasn't it?
No, we were at dinner or at lunch. We were
that's
at
right. That's right.
Cheesecake Factory.
That's right.
Yeah, and
how can we forget the food? Cheesecake Factory. Come on now.
and you're telling me this idea, this television show based on the life of Jesus Christ, and I was like, that sounds cool. But in my mind, I'm still thinking like YouTube. I'm like, what's this television thing you speak of? And so I was thinking like, oh, so he's going to do like a YouTube series or something about Jesus Christ. No, that's not what it was.
No, it wasn't. And for us, it was like we wanted to kind of disrupt Hollywood a little bit in the sense of giving really, really good content that stays biblical. Mm-hmm. I mean, I kind of got disenchanted with going to the movie theater and look at Noah and having to walk out because it's like, I read the Bible and the only thing they got right was it was raining and there was a guy named Noah, but everything else they got wrong. I was like,
is that the Steve Carell one?
Yeah, no. That one actually was pretty funny. I really like that one. Okay. I think it was Russell. It's not Russell Crowe. What's the other Russell guy? Was it Russell Crowe? Russell Crowe. Yeah. Look at that. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, no, it wasn't very biblical. And I'm like, who's telling these stories? And for me, being a believer, I just love Jesus. And I'm like, okay, if there's ever a project that I can kind of amplify the kingdom, I'm going to be a part of it. And I was actually at a conference that I own called Vid Summit. And I was shown a short film that this guy made for his church.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so good. It was about the birth of Jesus Christ, but it was through the perspective and eyes of the shepherd. And I'm like, this is so good. Okay, first off, low budget. I can get that. But the storytelling this guy has is so amazing. And so anyway, I got introduced to the creator, and he pitched me an idea about a TV show about Jesus. And I'm like, I'm all in. I'm ready to do it because there's one question. I says, okay, what type of TV show is it going to be? Like, tell me what's the best TV show of all time? He's like, Breaking Bad. I'm like, okay, now we can do this. We can do Breaking Good for Jesus.
And neither one of you had any television experience. Lots of YouTube experience.
I actually had some television experience.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had some television experience. I was taking television content and then repurposing it on YouTube. So I would go work with television or studios, had NBC Sports, NBC, ABC, and also BYU Television as a client.
Okay.
And so I did a lot of, hey, how do we do it? Take it from linear to put it on YouTube. And so we'd create the strategy from there. So I was kind of had my toe in there.
Yeah.
And for us, it was like a really unique idea. And for me, I just felt, okay, I felt like God was preparing me for a project. And, and whether he was or not, I just felt this way where my whole career was about how do I develop audiences and people that are passionate about things and get them to watch. Mm-hmm. And then two, how do we activate them to help share the message. And so from day one, I called my wife up, says, hey, honey, we're going to be investing into a new project. She goes, okay, what is it about? It's a show about Jesus. She goes, okay, that's nice, dear. Yeah. That's about it. I'm like, it's going to cost
I feel guilty saying no to that one.
I'm like, it's going to cost $200,000. Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. All right. Okay. Good luck with that one.
Yeah. Well,
and so that kind of started there, but we did a couple things right. We started really
Have you said the name of the show yet? I don't know.
Well, I'm getting to it, Tim.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting to it, Tim.
I didn't know
we did right.
Or not. All right.
So we created what we're passionate.
Suspense.
We're creating what we are passionate about. Like we love Jesus, we love good content, but more importantly, we wanted content that a family can really enjoy. And I wanted the content where people could see the Jesus that I see. And so was able to create videos and so on and so forth. We called it a little show called The Chosen.
Yeah.
And before you know it, we broke the all-time crowdfunding record in film and television, and we released content, and really humbling. It's just really flooded the earth in ways that I couldn't imagine. And, it has to do with, there's a demand on truth. There's a demand on light.
Yeah.
That is so needed in the world today. And what's the most beautiful thing out of all this is how much the show's impacted my own family. Because like what I prize more than anything else outside of my relationship with Jesus and God is my family. And to see content that makes my kids think differently, that they experience content, that they tear up and have an emotional connection and want to get into the Bible.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's all worth it. And I want to share this one because it's really cool, Tim. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but I have 5 kids, and the third child, he's a lot like me, like just in a lot of different ways. And we tried to have these family moments where we'd watch The Chosen, and I wanted my kids to see it. Well, every first episode of the show, he'd just go to sleep. Like he was out snoring through the whole thing. Everybody was like this. And I'm not a dad that pushes. I don't want to put my agenda on them because I think there will be a lot of friction, for the rest of their life if I do it that way. And I want them to have agency within controls, and we can talk about that later. But anyway, I was just trying to get every opportunity. So we'd always binge watch The Chosen. It was all season 1. And, we're now in season 3, but it's the season 1. And like we went 9 months, and we probably tried to binge watch as a family at least once a month. So 9 times we'd bring friends over and
Through
family.
the whole thing?
Just to watch the show together. Right. And every first episode that kid was out. And he just every 2 minutes, 3 minutes into it, he'd just be snoring.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm never going to reach this kid. And so for me,
the first episode, the first season's a little bit of a. I won't spoil anything, but it's not a sleeping episode.
No, it's not. It's pretty raw. And we'll use that very specifically. But anyway, so we get through it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So like for me, I'm praying to God. I'm like, I just want my kid to get to know you how I know you, and I want him to want a deeper relationship. And right now he's in high school, and he's thinking about girls and cars and activities, and he's not really thinking of things godly. And I know that The Chosen was made for him. And so my son, who this is like during the pandemic, he was a missionary. He was on a mission trip in the Philippines. Well, they took all the missionaries out of the Philippines. This is if you're not Filipino, you're out of the country. And they gave him pretty much 48 hours to leave. So he came home for a little bit of time. And I was just venting to him because like we have honest conversations in our household. And I was like, I can't get my son to watch this. I don't know what to do. He's like, Dad, I got you. I got it taken care of. And so he's like, okay, let's binge watch it as a family. And so we were all together, and he's like, I got you, right? And literally 5 minutes in the first episode, he was out. He was out cold. He's snoring. I'm like, okay, here we go again. And so anyway, we watched 3 episodes or whatever, and I just get up and okay, we're done. I'm going to go to bed. And so anyway, I'm sleeping, and it was probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I get this really big pounding on the door. And like nobody really knocks on my door. They just know to stay away, just like, don't bother mom and dad, whatever. But it was like pounding on the door. And I open it, and there's my son that always fell asleep during The Chosen. And he's just in tears. And he's just like, Dad, Jesus is real, isn't he? I'm like, yes, he is. He is so real. He goes, I started to watch the show, and I couldn't stop. And I just fairly finished with the last episode of season 1. And I believe there's a Jesus, and he loves me. And I'm like, everything that I've ever done in my life to help that show get seen by, hundreds of millions of people, that one night or that one morning was all worth it for me, because there was my son experiencing content and experiencing a Jesus that he didn't understand before, but it sent him on a journey, of discovery. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful night for me. But so that was The Chosen. Yep. There we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've grown all of these successful businesses and having a big impact on your son and your family. And our kids, we're in one of the episodes, season 3, and my kids, because we read a chapter of the Bible together 3 times a week. So Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Oh, no, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so we were doing the Old Testament. They're like, let's go to the Book of Mark. We've been watching The Chosen, and they're like, oh, it says Sons of Thunder. I thought they made that part up. We're like, no, that's actually right there.
It's right in Mark.
So it's fun for them to have some visuals to put to the story that they're reading. So it was good. I know from experience, not from The Chosen necessarily, but just in work in general, that as fathers, when we are putting time into our work, and very good work and appropriately so, that means that it has consequences in our family sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right? And what have been some of those struggles that have popped up for you, and how did you deal and address with some of those that popped up in your family as a result of all the good work that's happening outside the family and in different areas and businesses of your life? What does that look like?
I don't know if you can ever balance family, work, life, and business. I just don't think that you can actually have it completely in balance. I think you're out of balance always. When I first started my career and my companies, I only had one child, so it was really, really easy to do a lot of these things. But then I started noticing that as I got more busy and there's a more demand on my time, and being the breadwinner, is a very high priority for me to make sure my family has the necessities of life and so on. I started to notice that I was getting disconnected, and so much so that my wife and I, would have conversations as like, hey, I have a huge demand at church. I was similar to a pastor. I spent 20, 30 hours a week just building up our congregation and stuff like that. And then 2, was starting a business and had the demand of business, and it's like I have a new family. Like, how do you balance everything? And so the conversation came up was, can we be in balance? And I just felt like we could never be in balance at all. And I wanted to make sure my wife was okay with that. And so we had a really, really in-depth discussion on, is it even possible to have balance? We came away with the conclusion is we couldn't be in balance. However, we could prioritize our time and energy to be the most effective as we possibly can. And I want to give you very specific examples, because I don't think just saying, hey, you can never have perfect balance.
Yeah, it almost sounds like, well, why even try then?
Right. I think you need to be on a quest to make things run and balance, but life is life, and you're going to always have hiccups, and you can never be in balance from my perspective. And so for us, we wanted to try to be present. And I do believe being present in things is key. So a couple things that I would always do coming home is, how do I keep work away from home? I know some people work from home. I have an office, so it was really easy. When I came in, I'd put my cell phone away from me, and I would be present with my kids. And then 2, I wanted to give them enough dad time where they'd have a good relationship with me. And I wanted to invest my energy into their interests. So this is what I did. And this is a hard one for a lot of parents to do. But I decided to forego having hobbies. I will not have a hobby.
Or turn business into your hobby? kind of.
There might be some relevance there, Tim. You might have some relevance on that one. You might have got me a gotcha.
Well, business not in the sense of making money, but serving people really well.
Yeah, I mean, serving people. Yeah, absolutely. But I want to look at it from here. Like I could go out and do, like I could golf, I could do whatever, spend time for me. Yeah. I need me time. And I decided to give that up in return to focus in on the hobbies of my children. So I had a daughter that loved martial arts, and we did karate together, and she's a black belt and all that other stuff.
Really?
We spent a lot of time, doing that. So I wanted to make sure that when I optimized my time for them, I was doing stuff that they love. And that's something that we can bond over. And the best way to bond over anything is when they like to do stuff and you're doing it with them, and whether that's reading, whether that's, going and playing, whether it's just goofing around, playing video games, whatever, it's just, you got to figure out what that is. And so that was kind of our priority of how do we do that? And then 2, I wanted to give everyone some one-on-one time. So context, I'm one of 10 kids. And my mother and father are like amazing. My dad's passed, and my dad was an entrepreneur. But I had personal attention from him. I felt personal attention from him, and he was very intentional, to have activities with all 10 of his kids that they could have memories. Like I literally can give you, memory after memory after memory where, he left the 9 and focused in on the 1. Mm-hmm. And it was some of the best time of my life. Like even to this day, like it brings back memories. Like I remember one that he took me roller skating, at a roller skating rink, because that was the thing back in the 80s. Yeah, yep. And Van Halen just came out with a song called Jump, and everybody was roller skating. And when they said jump, we'd all jump, all that other stuff. And he jumped and landed on his butt. It was like the funniest thing ever for an 8-year-old to ever see. Yeah. But it's like those are the moments. And so I'm like, how do I take that and do it with my kids? Like I just wanted to hang out with my dad. I wasn't really into roller skating, and I think he had great intentions, and it's very memorable. But for me, I wanted to be more granular, like figuring out what they want to do, and then elevating that. And then the second thing was really, really important was I wanted to create experiences that they would never forget. So I was very intentional on, listening to them and hearing them. And then, we have the means and the resources and the opportunity to create experiences. And some of those experiences was with no money. It was just more designating time and priority. I'll give you a really interesting one. This is something that most people wouldn't think, but I love experiences because I think experiences we can always think back of, and it means something to us. And so we were like doing a family trip. I says, okay, we're gonna do a family trip. And I always come up with crazy ideas for family trips, right? I'm like, hey, I got an idea. What if we visited everyone's name? And they're like, visit everyone's name? Believe it or not, everyone is literally named after a place in the United States. What if we actually did it? Well, I did some research on the internet and found that there was like names of it, right? Okay. And I says, well, let's start, and we'll just do this big long road trip, and we'll just go from town to town and hitting everyone's names. And we're going to start with Thatcher's first. So here we are going to Thatcher, Arizona. It's in the middle of freaking nowhere, dude. It's like literally in the middle of nowhere.
He's like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah. And for me, I wanted to make a memorable moment for my Thatcher. Thatcher's my second to last child. And he's 10 years old. And I was like, okay, well, he wasn't 10 years old. He was 8 at the time. And I'm like, what can I do for an 8-year-old in Thatcher? I mean, it's going to be great. We're going to take pictures or whatever. And I'm all going through Facebook, and I notice a guy lives in Thatcher, Arizona. So I call him up, and I says, hey, you remember me? We went to this marketing event. He's like, oh, yeah, I know you all. What else? I'm like, hey, I'm coming to your area. What's something fun to do? And he's like, hey, dude, my brother literally goes to the high school. He's the coach of the high school. He can get you a basketball jersey that says Thatcher on it. Oh, I'm like, oh, dude, dope. So I like, count me in. So we get there. We created this amazing experience for Thatcher, taking pictures with his Thatcher jersey in Thatcher, Arizona, and he's Thatcher. Like, it's so meta, right? Yeah. But it was like taking those moments and going from there. And then it was like all about him and having fun what he wanted to do. Hey, Thatcher, let's go to your park because we're in your town, right? But it was like those moments. And then I got to tell you, I know this is the longest story, but you asked for it. Yeah. But we went into Logan was next, so that's the top of Utah.
Yep.
And we did the whole Logan thing. And so my third child, the one that was falling asleep during The Chosen, this is way before The Chosen came out, we went to Kelton, Utah. And Kelton, Utah is a ghost town.
Really?
And literally
one traffic light?
Not even a traffic light. We get there. No. We get there and there's just footings of old buildings that were there. I didn't know what it was. It was like a ghost town or whatever. And he just got these big alligator tears like, Kelton, Utah sucks. But we had him climb on signs and do some other things. And then we went up to Bridger, Montana, and you couldn't ask for a better day to go to Bridger, Montana. This was not planned, but it was literally Bridger Days. And Bridger Days was where the town came together. They did a demolition derby, and it was all about the founder of the community, and it was just a beautiful moment. And there was my youngest kid experiencing that, and then there was no Ellie anything in the world. Ellie's our oldest child, so we just
Ellie or is it Elizabeth?
Yeah,
or
Ellie, just Ellie,
Ellie.
just straight
I thought
Ellie.
that was a nickname for something.
Well, we tried. But I loved Ellie, so that's what we tried on.
Okay, perfect.
But we just went in the middle of, Montana, and we just put a sign down that we bought on Amazon that said Ellie, and we're like, we crowned this Ellie, whatever. So Kelton didn't feel so bad. That, there was at least a town.
I have a town.
Yeah. But that was a high priority. Is could we create moments and have fun adventures where we're very intentional, but making memories along the way.
Yeah.
And then 2, making sure that my kids are doing fun things as a family, but they get individual kind of treatment.
Yeah.
So.
Have you found that that's I get it when you're doing like a big vacation and we're going to go take a few weeks and go do this thing or something. Has it been a challenge that when you've been off for a few weeks, right? Not off work, but like you've been away for a few weeks doing The Chosen, doing all these other businesses, and then you come home and you're just tired and you just want to sleep and you just want to catch up on some rest. And does that become a challenge, or is that not really for you, or what does that look like when you're finally back home again?
I think there's like do not disturb dad time. Like that happens. Sometimes I'm dealing with large crowds, and if we have a lot of people over, like I'll just go like slip away because like I just like you get way too much interaction sometimes.
Yeah, stimulation.
And so for me, my kids know that if it's like game time, loud, whatever, that's a mom thing. That's not a dad thing. But if it's like strategy, like chess or Catan, then I'm all in.
Okay.
Right? I'll do that. I mean, there's a purpose behind those games.
Some similar love languages.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we like each other.
Yeah. Well, we haven't played chess yet, so we might not do that.
But for me, I think it's just, knowing and pushing forward with it. So there are times that you just like hit your threshold, and I do believe it's acknowledging that you hit your threshold, but realizing that your kids need you. And then what does that mean? So generally this is what I normally would do is I try to get personal time with each of them before I hit the hay or I disconnect. I'm like, what can I do it? So like my boy is obsessed with basketball. I'll go out and feed him the ball.
So even if you're only like you're gone for weeks and you come and I only got like 3 days at home or whatever, you like I got 3 days and my phone's over there and I'm just gonna be like, what can I do with each of these kids during these 3 days or something?
Yeah, and it's getting very, very, very specific, but it's more even in the evening. I mean, you might have a full day and it's just like, you just want to go to bed and wake up early. But for me, it's like, what can I do? Just for a few minutes, just to acknowledge, hey, how was your day? Talking through any of the issues that they're going. So one guy, one kid is basketball. The other kid could be gaming or chess or, listen to him to play the guitar, just
Was it
whatever it may
you
be.
two are taking swings and kicks at each other?
Something like that, yeah.
So how do you turn off the brain though? Like you get home and you're like, okay, but you just were like weeks of like working, and how do you not switch off, I guess, but how do you transition?
Well, now I do believe psychology and physiology on this, and I'll kind of explain why. I do believe there's a switch. I really do believe there's a switch.
Okay,
and I
where
think,
is it? I want it.
Well, no. Well, my switch is when I get into the house, the first thing that I do is I go put my cell phone in the holster.
Okay.
And I shut the door, and then I leave the cell phone.
That's why you don't text. I always respond to my texts.
Yeah, no, I'm literally, no, you have no idea. I got business partners that get so mad. They're like, hey, I'm like, there's only a couple things that I have as holy. Number one, Sundays, you're never going to get a response from me. I don't care if like the world's, burning down. I'm like totally taking it off. I'm praising God.
Yeah.
I go, number two is my evenings. I
like the boundaries.
I'm like literally doing this. And some of them are really ticked off. I says, I will get to it. It might be 3:30 in the morning. It might be 4:00 in the morning, but it will not be, during that time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, I like to set the boundaries, but I go through that mental process is, okay, I'm dad. Like when I'm walking through the door, I'm not a business owner. I'm not someone that's integrated into a church or a community. I come in and I'm dad.
Has it always been that way, or is that something you had to learn over
that's
time?
From the conversation my wife and I had. That was how do we do this? And that was one of the things that I vowed I would do is put my phone aside and become present. And being present is become dad. Even
if your thoughts are still like in that thing or that problem or that challenge or this issue.
So
at work,
I do believe that you'll actually be more productive if you can disconnect. I've seen it over and over again. Yeah. You need time away to actually get clarity. And so my day starts like this. I don't set an alarm. Never set an alarm. I wake up. Whenever I wake up, I'm ready to take charge of the day. And generally, I'll do a daily devotional and try to get connected to God. And then two, reading scriptures and prayer and so on and so forth. And then I get very hyper specific on what do I want to accomplish today? What do I want to accomplish today before noon? And I get very, very specific on this. So I can get a little hefty. Hefty is a word, by the way. So when I'm really mad and you're like the jefe, the boss, and you just get really hefty, right? But anyway, it's like when someone wastes my time. Like if I'm trying to get stuff by noon done, it just sets me off. Like I'm just, hey, I got my goal. Don't get in place of my goal. And so anyway, I'll do that, and then generally try to have goals for the afternoon. And then my whole thing is, I visualize, okay, what can I do for my kids today? Is there something that they need that I need to do? And whether it's like pulling them out of school and just going to get some ice cream or whatever, we'll just try to figure out what they actually need at the time.
Would you say that your superpower is compartmentalizing?
I would say my superpower is I don't care what people think about me. Number one, I think that's my biggest superpower. Okay. I think number two is I'm hyper focused.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that is how you really focus in on things. Like I lose sight of everything when I'm locked in, and I just try to get locked in, and then I'm like, oh wait, where did the day go? Yeah. And that's what I try to do. So that's being omnipresent, I guess, is the thing that you're looking to do.
How has having a vision for your business or for your family impacted the other? In other words, like, hey, I want this to be true of my family, but for this to be true, I got to get this number of resources. So I'm going to go out and build this business, or either way, like, because those are two different areas of our life as fathers and of men, but they have a lot of overlap and they impact each other significantly, right?
Right.
So, how has those two things impacted you and your family? In which order? In which way?
So I'm probably not your normal person on this. I'm super highly focused in on goal setting, but I never goal set like a dollar amount. I don't goal set, hey, if we're here, then we can enjoy it from here. I want to look at, what can be the impact. And I think if the impact's right, I believe that the dollars will just come. I really do believe in the parable of the talents, and I believe that all of us is given something, and it's our job to
continue doubling those resources.
Doubling the talents and the resources there. But I think it's around what? If it's something around something callous and transactional, I just don't even want to be a part of that. I think it's about mission driven or impact driven. Then I'm all in.
Yeah.
So for me, how it's actually bled over to benefit our lives is I have a very interesting business. Like I work with some of the greatest YouTubers of all time, and I'm able to get into the brand. And so let me just give you an example. We just had a wedding. We just talked about it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what can I do for my wife and my 2 kids? What can I do just to take a little bit of downtime? Because there's a lot of stress going into the wedding and whatever. And I have a son that's obsessed with basketball. And then I have a wife that works her hiney off, for the family and all that stuff. And then I have a son that's just really, really easygoing, but he likes to see the world. He likes to see culture in the world. I'm like, what can I do from that? And I thought, you know what? In my business, there's a lot of people that reach out to me to do, consults or whatever. And I know that one of them runs the social team for the Warriors, the basketball NBA team.
Oh, I saw these social posts.
Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, that's good. And I'm like, my wife used to be a missionary out in California in Santa Rosa. And then I had a friend reach out to me and says, hey, our church group, our youth group is wanting to see if you come speak. I'm like, hey, I'll be there in February. Yeah. So I can come speak to you for there. Okay, that was good for me because I can go talk to any church group from there. And then for me, it was my other child just loved just to travel and see things. So we were able to go where my wife went on her mission, go to two NBA basketball games. We went to Jazz first, and then we went to, because you got to go to the Jazz. So you got to do that. Then we went to the Warriors. But the Warriors was cool because we actually went through their whole facility and, took pictures, went on the floor and had really, really nice seats and, was able to do some time with the social team. And then my child that loves the NBA is like, if there's one player on the Warriors, like who would it be? Steph Curry's hurt. Who would that be outside of Steph, basically? He's like, Jordan Poole. I just want Jordan Poole. So we went there and I bought him the Jordan Poole jersey, and Jordan Poole actually signed his jersey. So it was like super dope, amazing trip. But for us, it was about experiencing life together and having the means and the opportunity to experience it at that level. Because there's not a lot of people that just can, at the whim, just say, okay, we're flying here, and not worry about money, not worry about, how are we going to manage this? I want to get my businesses running well enough that I could just get up and go and it won't be impacted. I
like how you're like integrating those together in some level where it's like, I'm going to do this work thing, but I'm bringing my family to do, and they can be with me, and they can be a part of that with me, and we can do this together. And I'm gonna do my thing over here, but they can be a part of it. That's awesome. Even at this event.
Well, the only reason why I went and did it is so that they could have that experience. Like I want them to have experiences,
right? Yeah.
And so if I have to go donate 2 hours of my time talking to their social team, to make it, instead of being nosebleed that you're, getting behind the scenes access.
I'm trying to figure you out while we're sitting here.
Wow. I
want to see if I got close.
How long have we been friends?
Well, this is a different side. This is a different side of things here. Would it be fair to say, and I could be totally wrong, so please push back. And I know you will because you don't care what I think.
I'm literally vocal. Yeah.
That you are mostly driven and motivated by impact and change, and starting with your family, but then also with other endeavors and business that you can do will impact and change people's lives in the world. But when you do the two together, that's like the best combo for you. Am I close?
I think you're fairly close. So I'm a practical person. I would say that functionality and efficiency is really important for me. So if I'm impacting the world in a part of the world, I need to impact my personal world in the same way.
Okay.
And so, like, regardless if it's a trip, regardless if it's, I mean, we literally during the pandemic, imagine this. You have your whole family, right, that's being impacted by the pandemic, and everybody's like locked in or whatever. And I'm like, what if we moved just for 4 or 5 months? Like, we could live wherever we want. What if we moved? And they're like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. And my daughter did her mission trip in North Carolina. I'm like, what if we moved to North Carolina? That's great. And I'm like, what if we moved next door to Mr. Beast? And then my boys are like, well, let's do it. And I'm like, what if you could be in a video for Mr. Beast? Yeah, let's do it. So we actually have a house.
Cincinnati? No, that didn't come up.
We literally have a house right next door to Mr. Beast,
right.
And they were in videos and like the whole thing. But it's like creating these moments that they'll never forget.
Well, in the beginning, you said you don't like balance. You think that's a thing. And
I don't believe in balance, but yeah.
And I don't like the idea of balance because it feels like in order for one thing to get better, something else has to go down.
Yep.
And I want a system where everything go up.
Yep.
Rather than having to always compromise on one thing in order for something else to do better. And it sounds like what you're saying is like you found a way or a system, a process or a belief or something that's like we can be family first, we can be business first, we can be others first, and being business first means that I can then take trips and create experiences for our family, and I can buy cars for people and things, and I can bless people. So it's more of like yes to everything, in a way that you apparently haven't keeled over yet.
Yeah. Well, I think it's two things. So I think it's how you approach it. I believe in the law of abundance, and I don't like to think scarcity. But more importantly, I just know that it's not mine. It's not mine.
The kids, the business, the money, the car, the family.
None of it.
Yeah.
It's God's, and He'll giveth and He'll taketh away. But the moment that He entrusted me as a steward of it, I need to optimize the impact.
Yeah, I like that because I feel like me and a lot of other people, like I believe in the stewardship of one of those things more than the other. And as opposed to like, these are both worthy endeavors that we need to steward and manage well. Some people are like, I got a big vision for the business and I'm going after that at the detriment of the family, or vice versa. Right. And doing both of those things well.
But I really think you can have both. I really think that you can. Yeah. It's just, is it going to be always in check? No, you're going to need to set down specific rules. Like right now, I know my time leaving this place right now, I have to go to LA and I only get like 6 hours with my family. And am I going to just disconnect and just go to work? Well, I actually have a couple obligations at work that I need to. But I'm literally, even if I have to forego sleep, I want to have that experience with my 2 young kids. My wife won't be even at the house. Like, she's doing a birthday party with Mr. Beast's mom. You know, they're celebrating her party, and they look like each other. So they're hanging out in Vegas, and I'm literally going to just take a few moments before I have to go down to Texas for a Chosen meeting. But I will be back on Sunday. And we'll start a new week, and we'll have a full week together. And there's some times that we're not present in person, but I think that's where the virtual stuff comes in. That's why we connect. We're all over everywhere. We're always doing it, but we take time to slow down enough to just talk. Yeah, and that's really huge. And I think you just have to prioritize, your effort to connect.
Yeah. That sounds good. Well, thank you for being so transparent and open about your family and your business and life and how those things intersect and overlap. And I appreciate you sharing your experience with us. So,
all right. Did you get to know me a little bit better?
I did.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, hey, when you figure it out, could you tell my wife? Because she's trying to figure it out too.
And be like, hey, so
the only one that knows everything is God.
Giant face palm.
So true. She always says, "You're the most predictable, unpredictable person I've ever met."
Oh, that's gotta be an interesting life.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you.
All right, brother.
Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
So many things stood out to me in this conversation with Derral. I like his perspective on like, you can't be in balance. So, and that's something I've always struggled with. Like I said, like I want a system where everything wins, not where like one thing has to go down and for something else to go up, like that balance, teeter-totter, seesaw type thing. I don't like that analogy. Like I want an analogy where everything goes up. What does that look like? And so the main thing that stood out to me, what Derral was saying, is that when he's home, he's present. And what that means for him is he puts the phone away and he doesn't care if it's a partner, if it's an emergency. He's like, I am inaccessible. And that has been my experience with Derral too. When he said that, I'm like, that explains a lot. When I've texted him or called him and gotten no response, doesn't even see an iMessage that he's even like seen my text message yet. It's just been delivered for a while. I'm like, now I understand. Okay, he must be with his family right now. And it's one thing for us to like hear that and say that, but to live that way is a challenge for me. So I came home from that event after having that conversation with Derral. That stuck with me. I came home, and I'll be honest, I did it well for like a few days where I'm like, I'm going to be like Derral. I'm going to plug my phone in. I'm going to put it away, and I'm not going to get it out again. And I tried that. It worked okay. But before long, making little excuses. Well, just this thing or that time, or like this is a big deal, or there's nothing going on right now in the family. I might as well check in, like that kind of stuff. And to do what Derral does and just completely disconnected and have that switch to be able to go from being fully present at home to being fully present at work, like to the point where he said he gets angry if people are interrupting him and he's trying to focus. And so that was good. So 7 things stood out to me from this conversation. Number 1, put the phone away when you're home. Now when you're at home, you're a dad or you're the mom. Number 2, give attention to each kid individually. Like that stood out to me. And that's something that, as my wife and I, we have 7 kids. We try our best to do. But when you have 7, that's like 1 a week if you do 1 each day, right? So my wife and I were actually just talking about that yesterday, actually, about how do we solve that and make that more intentional. Number 3, create memorable experiences with your family. I think our family does that okay, but I feel like it's mostly a few times a year where we do some big things. I like that. Like, how do we take a weekly rhythm and make some of those things memorable? Something my wife and I are talking about. Number 4, he said, it's okay to have a do not disturb time, like personal time to decompress. And we talked about that with Lennon in our previous episode as well, to have some transition time there. But he's like, I'm home right now. Just give me a few minutes to myself, or I need some time. And then so that he can be fully present when he gets back to the family. Number 5, he says, when you work, have focused work time to accomplish what you need, then disconnect. So he's setting goals. He's like, this is the amount of time I have. This is what I want to accomplish by the time my time is up. And this then I got to go back to the family. And so he is just like, pedal to the metal. There we go. The gas pedal all the way down to the floor, and he's focused. And then he slams the brakes and then goes back to being a dad. Number 6, it stood out to me that you need to have a just as strong of a vision for your family as you do your business, and vice versa. He's like, one of these things is not more important than the other. You could argue the family is more important, but they care. But to serve your family, you need to have a strong vision for your business too. And I felt like that he has just as much intentionality and vision for the relationships in his family as he does with his businesses. And so I heard that, and I took that to think like, okay, I have a big vision for our family, and it is what drives me in our business, and now in my work, having sold my business. I do personal coaching on the side, but mostly business coaching for more established creators who are trying to get the business side of what they're doing on YouTube going. So I have 6 spots have been available. 5 of them are full, so there's 1 spot available. If you're interested in having that conversation, just go to timschmoyer.com and you can find out more there. But he has just as strong a vision for his family as he does business, and I haven't found that to be true of most entrepreneurs. Most business owners tend to have a bigger, stronger vision for their work in their business than they do for their family. And I thought it was good that he has a strong vision for both. And then finally, number 7, what stood out to me is to more deeply believe that the resources that we're gathering for our family are not ours. They belong to the Lord, and we should manage them as such. And so the parable of the talents that he referenced is certainly something that's very important to me. I think about that weekly. It's on the wall, and like when you first walk into our house, on the left side, you'll see this board. There's a Schmoyer family vision. We got like a vision statement at the top, and then we've got 6 pillars of this is what it means to be a Schmoyer. This is how we fleshed out that vision. This is what it looks like specifically for us. And on there is we double resources. We take what the master has entrusted to us, and we find ways to double its fruitfulness so that it has a bigger impact than it did before. And so I think there's this level where if you're a Christian, you can hear that and you'd be like, yes, I believe that's true. But I think when we say believe, what we really mean is like, I will give mental consent that is true. As opposed to what I think I hear from Derral and the way I try to live is like, maybe I believe that out of 1 or 2, but what would be different about my life if I believed that at like a 6 or a 7? If I actually more deeply believed that these were just resources that I'm managing and I'm acquiring assets, I'm acquiring resources to have a bigger impact on my family and on our communities and the people around us. What if I actually believe that more deeply? So instead of belief being like a yes or no, I believe it or don't believe it, it's actually like a continuum of how much do you believe it? How deeply do you believe it? And so I just really appreciated hearing that from Derral, like hearing from someone who believes that at a high level. And I think that was challenging for me. Like I want to believe that more deeply as well. So anyway, those are the things that stood out to me, especially when I'm home, I'm present, and just completely disconnecting from my phone and putting family 100% first. I'd love to hear what stood out to you in this episode, and if that's something you do, I want to learn from you. How do you do that? Go to wrong URLs. You can go to Video Creators, but that's not where you need to go for this. Go to businessfamilymarriage.com and click on voicemail there, or there's a link in the show notes here. Leave me a voice message. I'd love to hear what stood out to you in this conversation. And if you are one of those people who can disconnect, I want to hear how you do that and feature the recordings of your voicemails in a future episode here. And let's learn from each other. I want to learn from you, and looking forward to hearing from you about that. So thank you for being a part of this endeavor that I'm doing just on my free time, personal time, just for fun, because I think it really is important that we lead fruitful businesses, marriages, and families. And that those 3 things don't need to be in conflict with each other. They can actually support each other in a way that's integrated together that makes life and our endeavors more fruitful than ever before. So thank you for being a part of this endeavor with me, and I will see you guys next time for another Business Family Marriage podcast episode. See you then. Bye.